Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Eleanor Vance, and I've dedicated my career to understanding and supporting the health and well-being of older adults. I've watched this video and I wanted to share its important message with you all in a way that truly resonates. Turning 70 is a significant milestone, one that can feel like it arrived in a flash. One moment you're young, full of energy and plans, and the next you're waking up in a body that feels different each day, with a lifetime of memories behind you. Life changes, priorities shift, and as we age, we might notice some surprising things about ourselves. This video talks about something I've seen and heard from many folks, a tendency to start avoiding people. This wasn't always the case for the person in the video. They used to be very social, always surrounded by loved ones, participating in events, and being a pillar of their community. But somewhere along the way, things changed. At first, they thought it was just them, but now they realize it might be more common than we think. Let's explore why. Time feels more precious than ever. At 70, the way you think about time changes. It's not just the clock ticking or the calendar turning. It's a clear understanding that time is finite. When you were younger, time felt endless, like a river flowing to a distant horizon. You might have spent it freely, perhaps on conversations that didn't go anywhere, relationships that weren't fulfilling, or tasks that brought little joy. These things might have seemed unimportant then, but now every moment feels like a precious gift, and you don't want to waste it. Time isn't just a way to measure things anymore, it's a companion, sometimes kind, sometimes a stark reminder to cherish what you have left. It's in the quiet mornings with your coffee, watching the sunrise and feeling the warmth in your hands. It's in the afternoon walks, enjoying the simple pleasure of leaves crunching under your feet, grateful for the strength in your legs. And it's in the evenings, sitting in your favorite chair, reflecting on a life well lived. You might have filled your time with people and activities, thinking that more meant a fuller life, but you learn that the opposite can be true. It's not about how much you do or how many people you're around. It's about the quality of those experiences and relationships. Now you choose carefully where and with whom you spend your time. A quiet, meaningful conversation with someone who truly understands you is worth more than a crowded gathering where you feel like a stranger. The truth is, you become very protective of your time because you realize how irreplaceable it is. When you're young, you think there's always tomorrow to fix mistakes, reconnect with friends, or pursue dreams. But as you age, you understand that those tomorrows are fewer than you'd like to admit. This doesn't have to be sad, it can make you more intentional. You stop wasting time on drama, shallow talks, or obligations that don't align with your values. Instead, you invest your time in your health, your passions, and the people who bring joy to your life. There's a deep peace in this shift. You stop feeling guilty about saying no to things that don't serve you, and you don't feel the need to explain yourself when you choose solitude over socializing. It's not that you don't value relationships. In fact, you value them more than ever. But your focus changes. You want your connections to be genuine, your conversations to be meaningful, and your days to feel full, not just busy. Time at this stage is also about letting go of regrets, grudges, and the need to do it all. You learn it's okay to slow down and simply be. There's no rush anymore. The best moments aren't in grand achievements, but in the small, quiet joys. A favorite song, a warm breeze, a heartfelt laugh. So yes, time feels more precious than ever, but it also feels richer. You've stopped chasing it and started savoring it, finding a contentment you might never have known before. At 70, you don't want to waste a single moment, not because you're afraid of running out, but because you finally understand what a gift it truly is. Relationships change, and so do we. As the years go by, relationships transform in ways you might not expect. Some grow stronger, deepened by shared memories and understanding, while others fade quietly, like a book you put down and never pick up again. At 70, you come to accept that not all relationships are meant to last forever, and that's okay. What you learn is that the people who remain in your life at this stage are often the ones who truly matter. When you were younger, relationships might have been everything. You surrounded yourself with friends, colleagues, neighbors, always trying to maintain connections and be part of something bigger. You might have been the person who remembered every birthday, showed up for every event, and tried to keep everyone happy. But over time, you realize how much energy it took to maintain relationships that didn't always nourish you in return. Life has a way of naturally pruning your social circle. People move away, get busy, or change in ways that make it hard to stay connected. Some relationships end with heartbreak, others simply with time. You might have taken these losses personally, wondering what you could have done differently. Now, you understand that life's journey pulls us all in different directions. People come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and recognizing which is which brings a sense of peace. But it's not just others who change, you change too. You're not the same person you were at 40 or even 60. Your priorities have shifted. You value simplicity, kindness, and authenticity more than ever. You might not have the patience for drama or one-sided relationships. You might have thought being there for everyone made you a good friend or family member, But you realize that true relationships are reciprocal. They don't drain you, they fill you. Some of the most profound lessons about relationships come through heartache: trust broken, loyalty unreturned, or kindness taken for granted. These experiences leave scars but also teach you how to set boundaries, recognize red flags, and value your own well being. Now you give your time and energy to people who lift you up, not those who weigh you down. And yet, even with these lessons, you might sometimes feel a pang of nostalgia for relationships that have faded. A friend you were once close to but haven't spoken to in years. A family member whose life has taken a different path. It's bittersweet to look back, but you appreciate those connections for what they were. Precious moments in time that helped shape who you are. Trust becomes more complicated. The older you get, the more you realize how fragile trust can be. In your younger years, you might have trusted easily, believing in the goodness of people and their intentions. But as life unfolded, you encountered betrayal in ways that made you more cautious. Trust once lost is hard to regain, and at 70, you might find yourself far more selective about who you let into your inner circle. It's not about being bitter or angry, but experience has taught you to be careful. Over the years, you might have been let down by people you never expected to hurt you. A friend more interested in what you could do for them than who you were. A business partner who prioritized their gain over your shared vision. Even family members who distanced themselves in ways that left you questioning what went wrong. These experiences leave you with a choice: close yourself off entirely, or approach new relationships with a mix of openness and caution. You might choose the latter, but that caution comes with a price. When someone new enters your life, your first instinct might not be excitement, but suspicion. You might find yourself wondering, what do they want? What's their motive? It's not a mindset you enjoy, but it's one born out of necessity. However, you also learn that trust isn't just about others, it's about trusting yourself. Trusting your instincts when something doesn't feel right, trusting your ability to walk away from toxic people, and trusting that it's okay to protect your heart even if it means keeping your distance. Still, trust is a complicated thing. You might meet people in recent years who restore your faith in humanity, even just a little. A kind stranger who helped you, a neighbor who checks in. These moments remind you that while trust may be harder to give now, it's not impossible. At this stage, you come to terms with the fact that trust will always be a delicate balance. It's not about building walls so high that no one can climb them, but about creating gates strong enough to keep out harm but open enough to let in love, kindness, and connection when it feels right. Ultimately, relationships and trust become simpler in their complexity. You cherish the few people you trust wholeheartedly and keep your boundaries firm with those who haven't earned it. And while you may never trust as easily as you once did, you value the relationships you do have even more deeply. At 70, that feels like a gift worth treasuring. The world feels different now. At 70, the world can feel like a completely different place from the one you grew up in. It's not just the pace of life that has changed, it's the very way we interact with each other. Sometimes you might look around and wonder where the warmth and simplicity of human connection have gone. You might have grown up in a time when neighbors were like extended family. You knew each other by name, stopped by unannounced, and offered help without being asked. Families gathered regularly out of genuine love and joy. There was an ease in those relationships, a sense of belonging that didn't require constant effort. But now, it seems like everyone is so busy chasing success, recognition, or just keeping up with modern life. People don't visit each other the way they used to. Conversations have become rushed, as though everyone is racing against an invisible clock. Even within families, connections can feel thinner, stretched by distance, both physical and emotional. Technology, for all its conveniences, has played a part in this shift. You might be grateful for video calls with grandchildren or staying in touch with old friends online, but at the same time, you can't help but feel that these screens have created barriers between us. There's something irreplaceable about sitting across from someone, hearing the nuances in their voice and feeling their presence. The constant stream of notifications and news updates can feel overwhelming. It's as though the world has become noisier yet lonelier. There are moments when you just want to step away from it all, turn off the phone, and retreat into the quiet of your own thoughts. And then there's the matter of values. The world you see today might feel unrecognizable, with priorities that seem so far removed from what you were taught to cherish: honesty, kindness, and community. It's not that those values have disappeared entirely, but they're harder to find amidst the noise of self-promotion and competition. You might often long for the simplicity of the past, not because you resist change, but because you miss the depth of genuine human connection. Back then, relationships felt more grounded, less transactional. People weren't constantly distracted, and there was an unspoken understanding that time spent together was precious. Yet, you also recognize that nostalgia can sometimes paint the past in softer colors than it deserves. Life was never perfect, and every era has its challenges. But as the world moves forward, you might find yourself retreating, not out of bitterness, but out of a desire to hold on to what still feels real and meaningful to you. Solitude isn't loneliness. In your younger years, you might have equated being alone with being lonely. The thought of spending an evening by yourself might have seemed unbearable, something to be avoided. But now you've come to understand that solitude isn't something to fear, it's something to cherish. There's a profound difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness is an emptiness, a longing for connection that feels out of reach. Solitude, on the other hand, is a fullness, a quiet contentment in your own company. At 70, you might find that some of the happiest moments come from simply being still, letting the world fade into the background as you focus on the present moment. In solitude, you rediscover the joy of simple pleasures, sitting by the window with a cup of tea, watching the birds, feeling the sun on your face, hearing the crackle of a fire. These small moments fill you with a sense of peace that no crowded room ever could. Solitude has also given you the space to reflect. At this stage, memories become both a comfort and a teacher. You might find yourself revisiting moments from the past, not with regret, but with gratitude for the experiences that have shaped you. In the quiet of your own thoughts, you've been able to make peace with things you once struggled to understand. This doesn't mean you've completely cut yourself off from the world. You still enjoy seeing your grandchildren, catching up with old friends, or engaging in causes that matter to you. But those connections feel more meaningful now because they are a choice, not an obligation. You no longer feel the need to say yes to every invitation or maintain relationships that drain you. Solitude has also helped you appreciate the relationships that remain. When you do spend time with others, you're fully present, savoring the moments you share. There's no rush, no distraction, just the joy of being together. Solitude teaches you to love yourself in a way that no amount of external validation ever could. It shows you that your worth isn't tied to how many people surround you or how busy your social calendar is. It's in the quiet moments when you realize you're enough, just as you are. At 70, you've learned that solitude isn't a sign of loneliness, it's a sign of strength. It's a choice to step away from the noise, to protect your peace, and to focus on what truly matters. And in that choice, you find a happiness that's deeper and more enduring than you ever imagined. Why I avoid people now? At this stage of life, avoiding people isn't about bitterness or resentment, it's about peace. After 7 decades of giving, learning, and sometimes hurting, you come to understand that not every relationship is meant to last, and not every connection is worth the energy it takes to maintain. It's a lesson that's both freeing and bittersweet, one you embrace not out of sadness, but out of necessity. For most of your life, you might have been the kind of person who put others first. You gave your time, energy, and heart freely, often without expecting much in return. You wanted to be liked, to be helpful, to be someone others could depend on. And for a long time, that felt right. You thrived on being needed, on showing up for others, on being the steady hand people could rely on. But life has a way of teaching you where your boundaries should be, even if it takes decades to learn the lesson. You might have been let down by people you trusted, hurt by those you loved, and drained by relationships that took far more than they gave. There were times you ignored red flags because you wanted so badly to see the good in someone. There were times you stayed in situations that chipped away at your happiness because you thought that's what loyalty meant. Now at 70, you see things more clearly. Avoiding people doesn't mean you've given up on humanity. It means you've learned to protect your own well-being. You no longer feel obligated to keep toxic relationships alive or to engage in situations that leave you feeling empty. You've traded the noise of social obligations for the quiet of meaningful solitude, and you've never felt more at peace. You might avoid people who bring drama into their lives and yours. You might avoid those who make everything about them, who never ask how you're doing or seem to care about the answer. You might avoid people who take your kindness for granted, assuming it's endless. And most importantly, you avoid situations that make you feel like less than who you truly are. This isn't to say you've closed yourself off completely. You still cherish the relationships that matter, the friends and family who have stood the test of time, who show up not because they need something, but because they care. Those connections are sacred, and you nurture them with all the love you have left to give. But you no longer feel the need to cast a wide net. A smaller, deeper circle is more than enough. In some ways, avoiding people has allowed you to appreciate them more. When you do spend time with others, it's because you truly want to, not because you feel obligated. The conversations are richer, the moments more memorable because they're chosen, not forced. Does this sound familiar? You might often wonder if others in your age group feel the same way. Is it just you, or does time naturally make you more selective? Do the disappointments and betrayals of life lead all of us to guard our hearts more closely, to prioritize our peace above all else? When you look back, you might realize that much of your younger life was spent trying to meet other people's expectations. You wanted to be everything to everyone. A good friend, a reliable partner, a supportive family member. But as the years went on, you began to see how exhausting that was and how little of yourself you had left. Now, you've stopped apologizing for protecting your time and energy. You've stopped feeling guilty for choosing solitude over socializing. And you've stopped wondering if there's something wrong with you for needing space to breathe, reflect, and simply be. If you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, maybe you've found yourself making similar choices. Maybe you've started to pull away from relationships that no longer serve you, or situations that leave you feeling drained instead of fulfilled. Maybe you've noticed that you value quality over quantity when it comes to the people in your life. It's not an easy transition. Sometimes it feels like letting go of parts of yourself. But the truth is, this stage of life is about shedding what no longer fits. It's about creating space for peace, joy, and the things that truly matter. If this resonates with you, know that you're not alone. There's no rule book for how to navigate this part of life, no one-size-fits-all approach. Some people thrive in big social circles well into their golden years, and that's wonderful for them. But if you're like this person and find comfort in solitude and smaller, deeper connections, that's just as valid. At 70, you've learned that it's okay to let go of what no longer serves you. It's okay to prioritize yourself, to protect your peace, and to live life on your own terms. And in doing so, you find a kind of freedom you never knew existed. A freedom to be fully and unapologetically yourself. So, if you find yourself pulling away from people or choosing solitude more often, don't see it as a loss. See it as a gain. It's a gift to be able to carve out a life that feels right for you, even if it looks different from what others expect. Here's to this chapter of life. A chapter of reflection, growth, and the courage to live authentically. May we all find the peace we deserve. Embracing this chapter. At 70, you might come to see life not as a series of endings, but as a series of beginnings. Each stage brings its own lessons, challenges, and beauty, and this one is no different. This chapter of life, with its quiet simplicity and deeper reflection, feels like a culmination, a time to embrace who you've become and let go of the things that no longer matter. When you're young, you often live with an urgency, a constant need to do more, achieve more, and be more. There's a restlessness that drives you forward, fueled by the belief that the future holds endless possibilities. But as you age, that restlessness fades. You stop chasing what's out there and start appreciating what's right here. It's not about giving up, it's about shifting your focus. This chapter is about simplicity. It's about savoring the small moments that often go unnoticed. The morning light, the laughter of a grandchild, the warmth of a loved one's embrace. These are the moments that anchor you, that remind you of what's truly important. It's also about reflection. At 70, you might find yourself looking back on your life not with regret but with gratitude. There were triumphs that filled you with pride, mistakes that taught you resilience, and heartbreaks that shaped you in ways you couldn't understand at the time. Each experience, no matter how small, has woven the tapestry of your life. But this chapter isn't just about looking back, it's about looking forward too. There's a quiet excitement in knowing that you still have time to create, to learn, and to grow. It's a time to focus on what brings you joy, whether that's nurturing a garden, exploring a new hobby, or simply taking time to be still. One of the most beautiful parts of this chapter is the freedom it brings. The freedom to let go of expectations, both those imposed by others and those you've placed on yourself. You no longer feel the need to prove anything or to meet some arbitrary standard of success. Instead, you embrace the idea that simply being is enough. This chapter has also taught you the importance of saying no. No to obligations that drain you, no to relationships that no longer serve you, and no to the pressures of trying to be everything to everyone. In doing so, you've made space for the things that truly matter: peace, love, and connection. There's a kind of courage that comes with aging, a willingness to live authentically and unapologetically. You no longer fear being judged for your choices or misunderstood for your actions. At 70, you've earned the right to prioritize your well-being, to speak your truth, and to live life on your own terms. This chapter is also about gratitude. Gratitude for the life you've lived, the people you've loved, and the memories you've made. Gratitude for the strength that has carried you through tough times and the joy that has illuminated the good ones. Gratitude for the simple fact that you're still here, with more life to live and more lessons to learn. So, what does embracing this chapter truly mean? It means accepting the past without clinging to it, embracing the present with open arms, and looking to the future with hope. It means finding beauty in the everyday, cherishing the relationships that matter, and letting go of anything that doesn't bring peace. It's not always easy. There are moments of loneliness, of wondering what comes next, of missing the people and places that once filled your life. But even in those moments, there's a quiet strength, a reminder that you've made it this far and that you have everything you need within you to keep going. At 70, you might come to realize that life is less about the big milestones and more about the small, meaningful moments that make up your days. This chapter, though different from the ones that came before, is no less important. In many ways, it feels like the most authentic, the most honest, and the most peaceful part of your journey. Embracing this chapter is not about accepting limitations, it's about celebrating possibilities. It's about honoring the life you've lived while remaining open to whatever comes next. And most of all, it's about living fully, deeply, and unapologetically, one day at a time. Closing thoughts. At 70, life has taught that it's not about how much you do or have, but about the quality of what you cherish, the moments, the connections, and the peace you carry within. You find joy in simplicity, strength in solitude, and fulfillment in focusing on what truly matters. Avoiding people isn't about bitterness. It's about protecting the peace you've worked hard to find. If you're walking a similar path, know that it's okay to choose what feels right for you. This chapter is yours to embrace in whatever way brings you the most contentment. Here's to living authentically and savoring every moment you're given. Take care. Valuable life lesson. Remember, as you navigate this beautiful stage of life, it's perfectly all right to prioritize your peace and well-being. Just like tending a precious garden, you get to choose which relationships and activities you nurture. Focus on those that bring you joy and allow you to flourish. Don't hesitate to prune away anything that drains your energy or disrupts your inner harmony. Your time and your heart are your most valuable treasures now. What are your thoughts on this? Share your experiences in the comments below.